Welcome to Moto Mouths, the podcast for MotoGP, motorsports, and more. My name is Zoe, and I had something I was going to say here, and I forgot.
My name is also Zoe, and that's great because I actually didn't have anything prepped for our intros.
Great. Perfect.
There we go. Nailed it.
Nailed it. As per tradition.
It is now kind of expected. This is what we always do.
Not to talk about Jorge Martin for 2 minutes at the top of the pod, but we're gonna. So
maybe not 2 whole minutes, maybe 1 minute.
Yeah, he all broke.
Still broke. Maybe not financially, but physically.
Physically broke, and not going to be racing anytime soon.
Yeah, I know we talked about this last week, but he's for sure confirmed not to be racing in Argentina in round 2 this year. There is yet to be an official statement, really, about him for sure trying to come back for Austin. But the overall consensus is that there's no way he'll actually be declared fit for Austin. So it seems, knock on wood, whatever you want to do to kind of ease your suspicions. But it seems as though his bid for the 2025 World Championship has officially kind of come to an end.
Is there any way that mathematically he could get it?
Yeah. I mean, we've only had one race of the season. 100% mathematically, there is a way he could make it happen. What would need to happen, though, is Pecco to not be good and Marc to also not be good enough that essentially this first round and what looks to be another solid round for the two of them in Argentina, those will need to be negated very quickly.
So mathematically possible, but realistically
increasingly unlikely. Listen, I could turn around in 2 months and be like, that was fucking stupid of me to say. Who knows? It has happened before, but I think it's pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I don't think even before the injury, he was coming into this season with anything but, a twinkle in his eye of maybe fighting for the championship this year.
Yeah.
So it's just, the pressure is extra off.
Hopefully like his cast.
You take the wins where you can.
Yeah. Drink more milk, Jorge, if I have one piece of advice.
Honestly, this is a great opportunity for Got Milk to just jump on it.
So true. Need some calcium in those bones. Calcium and surgical steel.
Well, he's got the steel now.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the jewelry. Well, other than Jorge Martin's unfortunate condition, we've already talked about everything that went down at the first race of the season. So should we talk a little bit about everything that is going to go down at Argentina?
I'm so excited for this. Yes, let's talk Argentina. Where are they racing in Argentina?
Great question. It is in a small resort town that I cannot quite remember the name of and don't want to butcher.
Let's look.
It is in a small resort town in the northeast, central north part of Argentina. They've gone to this track before. They haven't been there since 2023, since the race in 2024 was canceled for I believe something happened in the political climate that MotoGP was like, we don't need to be there right now. And then there were a couple of years through kind of the height of COVID that they canceled. It's been kind of a bit of a back and forth. So Argentina hasn't really had a consistent showing in the World Championship in a while. The track there, if we're talking about factors of the track, historically, it's pretty dusty. It's pretty dirty. Grip is always a huge issue here, but both Marquezes have done well here. They both really like, especially Marc, the low grip nature of it. That's something he's always been great at. And then also notably, Marco Bezzecchi has done well here. So this could be a good weekend for him.
Did I see that he got his first win here?
I believe so.
Do you, just while I'm still on the Wikipedia page for the track, do you want to guess who has the lap record?
I'm going to guess maybe Jack Miller.
It is Valentino Rossi.
Wow. I was guessing because Jack Miller used to ride on Ducati, so I was wondering maybe if that had been part of it. But
it was 2015.
Damn.
2015.
What a year.
What a year. So
We won't get into that.
we will not get into that, but you know what we will get into? Predictions for Argentina.
Let's go.
Okay, so we're going to do top 3 and of course our fail king for the weekend. You went first last time, so I'm going to go first this time. I'll switch it up a bit.
Amazing.
Okay, so in third, I think I'm going to go for Marco Bezzecchi. I said it last week. I'm saying it this week. I don't know. I just think I'm feeling good vibes. In second, I'm going to learn from my mistakes, and I'm going to say Alex Marquez in second. And then in first, I'm going to say Marc Marquez because I'm not stupid. And then for fail king, I'm going to say Pecco. I think something's going to happen. I'm feeling it in the air.
I like feeling things in the air. I think that's a scientific way of doing things. It feels right. What do you think is going to happen to Pecco? There's no wrong answer. I'm just curious.
Dust.
Yeah. I mean, I think that'll happen to a lot of people.
Mr. Sandman's going to sand him with sand.
And you know what? I really can't argue with that.
It's going to slip and fall on a banana.
Got it.
Not even.
Noted.
He's not even going to slip and fall on the dust. He's going to slip and fall on a banana peel. And there's going to be like a comedic like noise. Ba-ding, bonk.
And you know, I've seen races. That happens. Exactly.
I just think he's going to try.
I like your choices.
I think he's going to try so hard and it's going to have a negative effect. You can't do too much. Like he's going to go too much. He's not going to know when to back off.
He's going to overcommit is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I could see that. I mean, we talked about it. Everybody's talking about it, like the emotional impact of Marc having such a dominant weekend combined with Alex also kind of dominating Pecco. How is that impacting him only one weekend into the season? We just don't know yet.
Also, I think that scientifically, Spanish speakers will get like an extra Mario Kart boost from being in a Spanish speaking country.
I see that.
That's science.
It is. Peer reviewed even.
Yeah.
I'm the peer.
So, you know, something colonization, return to the colony, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. I'm not going to co-sign that part.
Akin to Carlos Sainz winning the Mexico Grand Prix this year, and they said, long live the king or whatever, and they were like, no.
They did say long live the king of Mexico,
yeah,
which is like historically not the thing you should be saying in a previous colony. Yep. Imagine like Lando winning Coda.
I don't want to.
And then everyone's saying, no, I know, I don't either. But then everyone's saying, wow, the king of America.
Well, we don't have any issues with people saying they're the king of America right now, do we? I don't have to imagine that.
God, for one brief shining moment, I kind of forgot.
About everything?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Anyways.
On that downer of a note, hit me with your predictions.
Okay. I think, so for P3, I am also going to go Marco Bezzecchi because I'd like to be joyous in a different way. I want that so badly. And I feel like he, you know, the first week in Thailand, I think he had a comedy of errors. He had a shitty start. He just kind of, nothing was really coming together, but he had the pace. So I really hope he's gotten that out of his system.
And it wasn't a bad weekend overall.
No.
He can build.
Yes, this is a building moment for him and already going to a track that he has done so well at before. Momentum is good. I think I'm going to go P2 Pecco because Pecco, as much as I like to rag on him, as much like as I already kind of have, he does really well under pressure. Those are those moments where, you know, he kind of shines when he has these not great weekends, and then he takes that into the next weekend and actually does something with it. So that's where I'm putting him in P2. And then I'm putting Marc P1 because, yeah, I'm not stupid either.
We want to be right.
I like being right. For Fail King, I think I'm going to go with, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling maybe Frankie.
Retribution.
Which I would hate because this is not his home race, but he is Brazilian, so there will be like a huge outpouring for him. And I would hate for that to go that way. But you never know. I feel like that might be the case.
Yeah.
I feel like there'll be an outpouring for Frankie, which will be sweet and fun because it's been really interesting, like, getting to know him and his history because he's very much an Italian character and a key aspect of Valentino Rossi's
he's Brazilian?
kind of space. Yeah, he is. So Frankie's mom is Brazilian, I believe. Frankie's dad was Italian. When Frankie was first coming up, in the mini bikes, he's living and growing up in an area in Italy that's close-ish to where Valentino Rossi was. And Frankie's dad, in the very small network of bike people in Italy, knew people who knew Valentino. So he kind of finagled Frankie in to get, introductions into Valentino's network. It's on record as Valentino and Frankie having this really deep relationship and really, supportive relationship. Long story short, a tragic story too. Frankie's gone through a lot, and I think it's very interesting that he has this incredibly rich and tragic life history, and he's just a good dude. And he has talked a lot about how in the last couple of years, he's finally gone back to Brazil to connect with his family that he has there because they hadn't seen each other for years. So he's reconnecting with his cousins. He's reconnecting with people he grew up with and hadn't seen in years. And it's just a huge part of like his personality, and he's very committed to it. And he's just like, he talks about it a good amount. So all of that to say, I think we'll see a massive outpouring for Frankie, and I really hope he has some time to hop over and see some family. One other thing about Frankie is, English is like the language of the sport, essentially, this language of the business. Frankie learned his English accent from watching movies, like Hollywood surfer guy movies.
Oh my God.
So he speaks English with a bit of a California accent. And it's so, so funny.
I love that so much.
Wow, this just turned into a treatise on Frankie Morbidelli. Sorry, guys.
Speaking of Frankie Morbidelli, did you want to talk about Pecco's sprint woes?
I do want to talk about Pecco's sprint woes because this is not really news, but I thought this was super interesting. We've talked about this before. Pecco, doesn't historically do super great up until Sunday, which is when he gets his shit together and typically is a great showing. I'm very interested in the fact that Pecco has finally cited a quote unquote scientific reason why he's not great at sprints.
Hit me with this. I want to hear.
He says that the scientific reason that he's not doing the best at sprints is that obviously sprints are around half the length of the race, so they don't use the same fuel tank. They use a smaller one. And Pecco claims that because they use the smaller fuel tank, and it's, I think, situated in a different place in the bike, has a different weight, it does impact the way the bike moves. He says it makes him struggle on braking and corner entry. And that's why he doesn't do well on the sprints.
No.
Really interesting because Frankie Morbidelli was also asked about this, and all of this was happening at Buriram from that weekend. Frankie was asked about it, and Frankie did back him up and say, yeah, it feels off to have the sprint fuel tank. Is Frankie maybe an unbiased third party in this? No. Frankie and Pecco have a very long-standing relationship. Frankie also just kind of spent most of the weekend screwing Pecco over a little bit. So, take that as you will. But it's so interesting to me because Pecco loves to do this where he loves to say, actually, it's not totally my fault. There's a scientific reason behind this, and there always has been. You just don't know it.
He keeps using the word scientific.
Yes.
And here's the question I'm posing. How many sprints are there a year?
As many races.
And how many years?
So this year there's 24?
And how many years have they been doing sprints for every race?
They started in 2023.
All right. So this is at least, he's had 2 seasons of sprints every single race weekend. I call bullshit. I think that's more than enough
I
time
completely agree.
to figure your shit out. And it seems like if we haven't heard about it up until this point, it seems like maybe this isn't something that other people are really struggling with.
Exactly. I think Frankie, in his way, was doing the best he could to be like, yeah, that is a problem that people can have.
People,
I guess.
People like my friend looks at his hand and it's
Who I've never
smudged.
done anything wrong to in my entire life.
My friend Pecco, my other friend Schmecko.
Yeah, all those people. No, and I completely agree with you because, one, say this is a bigger issue. It's not, because I don't really think anyone else has made a serious beef about this. Like, no one's really brought this up as like a consistent issue that they're having. Two, why then, if your issue is the sprint fuel tank, why then are you also typically not strong on Friday practices? Because you're not running the sprint fuel tank for the entire practice sessions.
Could he potentially like not have just run the regular fuel tank with a lighter load of fuel, or is that against regulations?
It's regulated. And someone did ask him, have you ever tried to do that and run a sprint sim and see how it goes to see if that's really the issue? And Pecco's like, yeah, we did do that and I was faster, so that's the issue. Which, you know what, I'm all for the scientific method, but again, I'm still calling bullshit.
Pecco is me anytime I'm faced with something that is my fault.
Yeah, 100%. Anytime I'm faced with something that I have to do that's even mildly difficult and I'm not acing it, yeah, there's a scientific reason.
Scientific.
That's going to be my go-to now.
Not philosophic.
Hey.
Not sociological. Not mathematical. Scientific.
Hey, why didn't you finish that quarterly report that we need to get out the door by the end of the week? Well, there was a scientific reason, for sure.
Do you think it's time to turn to the wide world of motorsport?
I think it is.
So, it's race week, not just for MotoGP. It is also the first race week of the season for F1, heading down to Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. And I thought it would be fun, much like we did for MotoGP, to make our season predictions and then make our Australian GP predictions. So
I'm so down.
We're going to do top 3 finishers, Crash King, and Constructors Champion. Would you like to start with your Crash King?
I would like to start with my Crash King. I think Crash King this season will be... So I think I want to go with a rookie, but I don't think it's going to be Kimi. Well, actually, Crash King, I'm going to go Liam.
I'm going Liam too! That is also my Crash King. I knew we were going to be on the same wavelength.
If there's anything about this pod, it's that it's full of haterism.
For our future Crash King, I think that will pan out to be correct.
And if it's not correct, we'll be close. I think
100% will be close.
Yeah.
Great, that was easy. So, Constructors Champion.
I'm gonna go with McLaren.
I disagree. I think it's.
Where are you going?
I think it's gonna be Ferrari.
Okay, that was my second choice.
I think it's gonna be Ferrari
because I think if you get a good car under Lewis,
he's so consistent,
and I feel the same way about Charles.
Yeah,
but all signs point to McLaren having made good progress. So I think those are good, 2 good choices.
Yeah, you go McLaren, I'll go Ferrari, and we'll see where we end up. Notably,
I'd rather go with Ferrari, but
you want to be right.
I like being right.
Notably, no Red Bull in that prediction. Suck a dick. Red Bull.
Yep.
Who do you got in third place?
Third place, I'm gonna go Lewis Hamilton.
Interesting.
And it makes sense because of my first and second.
Yeah. In third place, I'm going to go with, hate to say it, really do, It's going to be Lando Norris.
Okay, this is so interesting. Because, can I just tell you my first and second?
Yeah, hit me with your first and second.
I think this is informed by the reality of the situation in which we find ourselves and also mildly delusional, okay? I think it's going to be a Max Lando P1, P2.
Max P1.
But I think it's going to be really tight.
Max P1.
I think it's going to be P2. Incredibly close. Here's my argument.
Okay, hit me with your argument.
I think Lando learned a lot from last year. The McLaren is better. I think it's going to be a tighter fight. The Red Bull is worse. We know this. I do still think that Max is the same person he's always been, the same athlete he's always been, which is the person who will get ugly when it comes down to it. And that's how he'll make up the gap between where the car is and where it needs to be. I don't think this is going to be a great season for Max's image, but I think that is the only chance that he has right now of securing the championship.
Here's my 1-2. I think that it's going to be Max in 1. I think he's going to break Red Bull's curse of not getting past 4 championships. And is it a curse if it's only happened once? Who knows? I think he's going to become Red Bull's winningest driver. And then that'll be the last championship he wins. And I think it'll be the last championship Red Bull wins for the foreseeable future. I think Lewis is going to be in second. Lewis is so fucking hype about this season. He is feeling like I have never seen him like this. Like with the spring in his step. Just like you saw the pictures.
That is a great point.
You saw the pictures of him in the McLaren last year, like the week before, not the McLaren, sorry. You saw him in the Mercedes the week before the Ferrari news dropped, and he looked fucking miserable. Like he was miserable.
He is. I do feel like Lewis is one of the confidence athletes. Like he needs a good feeling.
And here's the thing. Here's why I think Lando's going to be in third. McLaren may have worked on the car. McLaren may have done X, Y, and Z. The one thing that McLaren, I don't think, has worked on, nor are they willing to commit to, is are they going to back Lando in the championship? Or are they going to stick with this no 1-2 driver situation? Because I think Oscar's just getting stronger. And I think that if McLaren is like, we're going to let them drive, then Oscar is going to pick off points from Lando in a way that is not going to benefit him at all.
That is a really solid point. And I think Oscar did make this clear last year that he's not willing. He's willing to play the team game for the moment, but he's not willing to let them walk all over him. There was a incredibly slim chance that Lando could maybe secure the championship by the end of the year. Incredibly slim. I personally believe there is maybe 1 out of 100 realities in which that could happen, but I don't think that's the case this year, especially not at the beginning of the season. But I do wonder if maybe McLaren has learned something from that and will be more intense about the idea of supporting one driver over the other.
The issue is that that's not in McLaren's DNA.
Good point.
I think that the only driver pairing that I can like really realistically think of in terms of like we are not having these drivers on equal levels was Daniel, which was wrong. I think if they had given them equal opportunity, I think that things maybe would have been a little different. And then I think maybe going back to like, I don't know, when it was Jensen and Checo or like K-Mag and Jensen, like way back in the mid 2000s, like McLaren historically is not a team that has a 1-2 situation. They just don't. Like Prost, Senna, Fernando and Lewis.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point. They've never really done that.
And I think that's going to be to their detriment this year because I can't imagine them starting the season with saying, we're backing Lando. And I think that's the only way they could do it to get him into second or even first is to back him from the beginning and say, Oscar, you have to play second fiddle all year. Like, that's just not the case. They've not set themselves up to do that in the way that Red Bull have.
I would also make the argument that there's not enough of a disparity between Lando and Oscar's performance and talent that Oscar would just accept the fact that he is the natural second driver.
I agree. I could see,
like, when you have Max and Checo, like, that's maybe not a perfect example, but there have been so many cases of the quote unquote number 2 driver, whether that's like over the course of their time with the team or over the course of a weekend, one driver does better than the other. The less strong driver is used to provide a slipstream, guard, whatever it is. I don't think there's enough of a disparity between the two of them that there's like a natural 1-2 that already exists.
I agree completely, which is why I think that they would have had to decide that from the outset in order to make it work. And they're not going to do that. They're just not. And so I think that they are going to let them race. And that's going to be to Lando's detriment because Oscar is strong. I could see Oscar getting third as well. Like, it only takes a few races of screw ups from Lando.
And also, this is what I've been excited about Oscar from the beginning, is that he hasn't peaked by any means.
Exactly.
This is his, third year? That's nothing in the grand scheme of like a very strong F1 driver.
I'm also going to say Lando is a great driver. Lando is...
Yeah, he wouldn't be here if he wasn't.
Lando is not a generational driver. He's just not. Oscar, very well, maybe. Not... I think he's kind of in a lost generation, akin to how Daniel and Mark were. Is that the curse of Australians?
Yeah.
But I think that, I mean, unlike Lando, he won F3, F2 back-to-back, breezed through them, and just has this, like, I think that he is, you're right, he hasn't even reached his peak, but he is reaching his prime. Speaking of winning, I don't know, Australians, let's make a segue. Getting into the Australian Grand Prix, shall we do predictions for that?
Yes. I think there's a good chance that if McLaren has Lando and Oscar towards the front of the field, I feel like they might try and give Oscar the win if it's not like egregiously obvious.
I don't think Oscar will be anywhere near. I think he'll be just off the podium because this is Australia, and you must remember that except for Daniel Ricciardo, whose podium was wrongly taken away from him, no Australian has ever podiumed at Melbourne.
So he's definitely going to get P4.
Yeah,
I take it back.
Exactly.
Well, then this is a realistic and sad expectation. I think it's going to be Lando, Charles, and Lewis.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, and 3.
All right. I think it's going to be Lando, Max, Lewis.
All right. I feel like both of those predictions are solidly possible.
Who's your fail king going to be?
My fail king is going to be, I think I'm going to go with Kimi, because it is his first F1 race ever.
I was going to say Kimi too. I think the hopes are going to be heavy on his shoulders.
Everyone's going to need to take a second and breathe and realize he's an infant.
Speaking of Kimi Antonelli's infancy, this takes us really neatly into my next point, which is neither of us watched Drive to Survive because we respect our health and sanity and safety and wellness. However,
and also our free time and mental health.
I have seen clips online, and the creepy vibes from Toto Wolff towards this infant child, who was, again, 17. He, like, literally, like, have you seen this clip where he gives him a hug and then he goes, "How was school?" And it's like,
yeah,
it gives such high school senior going up to the freshman on the cheerleading squad and saying, "Where's my hug at?"
I can't.
That's
right. So horrifying.
I'm right.
No, you know what it gives? It gives weird track coach at track practice asking one of his athletes, "Where's my hug?" Yeah.
Toto Wolff, get a job.
All that to say,
stay away from him.
Creepy and weird. It is so, like, Toto Wolff is so traumatized by having lost out on the Max Verstappen of it all that, like, we have all just sat here and watched as he has like
abducted a child in plain sight.
Yeah, in plain sight. He is practicing child labor. He's breaking child labor laws, and we're all just like, well, he lost out last time. He should get a second chance. What?
Here's my thing. Toto Wolff should have just waited another 4 months and put Max Verstappen's infant in that car.
I know. Even just like Max's new dog, like put that in the car.
Nino. He has acquired so many living souls in that house so quickly.
It's been a 100% increase in the last 4 months. You realize that?
Yes.
It'll soon be a 150% increase with the new baby.
Season predictions. Boy or girl?
Girl.
I'm going girl too. He's a girl dad.
It just makes sense.
He's a girl dad.
He's a girl dad.
He's a girl dad.
How it goes. As a girl with a girl dad, that's the vibe.
The other thing about Drive to Survive that we got to talk about is this atrocious. They switched up a whole bunch of shit.
This shit's whack.
They got Max and they didn't even try to hide it. Is the thing. They've got Max and an Austrian Pirelli cap moping about Miami. They've got Daniel Ricciardo apparently losing
the absolute cut and like copy and paste job that they did on the Daniel Ricciardo of it all. It makes zero sense to me. And obviously this is a caveat. We are both huge Danny Ric girls.
We're both literally wearing Daniel Ricciardo merch right now.
We are. This is true. I don't understand the storytelling that they decided to go with for the coverage of the Danny Checo Lawson of it all.
It makes no sense.
What is especially insane to me is that, and this is segueing into, I think, a related but different point, is that this season more than ever has made it very, very clear that Drive to Survive has no interest in actually telling any sort of truth and is actually far more interested in maintaining their relationship with the access into F1 to the extent that they have glazed Christian Horner in a way that is absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Christian Horner is the main character of season 7 in a way that is insane.
Yeah. He was also the main character of season 6 in a way. And now here we are again, except maybe we shouldn't. And that's that on that.
And we know we shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, we know we shouldn't. It is not even an excuse anymore.
Yeah.
And am I surprised? No. What I am surprised at is how blatant it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's especially crazy.
Yeah. No nuance. No, nothing. It's blatant, blazing.
This season is framed as the Christian Horner comeback tour, but they won't tell you what the comeback is apparently from.
I don't fault the filmmakers I'm guessing that they are under pressure from Netflix to maintain the level of access that they have. Christian Horner, I know for a fact, was the only team principal to get in on the ground floor of this in 2018. So it's just a shitty situation, I think, all around.
Am I saying Drive to Survive should have come out and completely disavowed him? Yeah, they should have.
Yeah.
But they were never going to. There's never a reality in which that was going to happen. But that is a very different thing than what they did, which is say, this is actually the Christian Horner show and he's amazing and incredible and deserves only nice things. And also, by the way, we're Drive to Survive. Thanks for coming.
By the way, Lando was so close to winning the world championship, by the way. Except Lando...
Please believe us.
Except Lando says he's literally built different than Max and that Max is built better, so he's seriously the underdog for real.
What I think Drive to Survive should have done is say, yeah, you can participate, but you cannot be the main character.
I know you know how to edit.
Reality TV has been doing it for years. Give him, if not a true edit, give him a he went home early edit. And this is why I didn't spend 8 hours watching Drive to Survive.
Truly best decision of my life.
Yeah, I do feel so calm.
Is there anything else that I wanted to talk about in the wide world of motorsport? K-Mag came fourth in WEC.
Love that for him.
Did post a video on him on his Instagram with Valentino.
Hey, everybody loves that old man.
And said, the Doctor and K-Mag handshake emoji, doubling up BMW M Motorsports star power. I don't know if I would term K-Mag in the same level of stardom as Valentino Rossi, but
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
I don't think anyone would. But he did come in fourth at Qatar, so good for him.
It is so funny to me because Valentino Rossi is, and we've talked about this before, but Valentino Rossi is such a titan of motorsport, not just MotoGP, that his power and influence and star power extends everywhere. I'm so interested by the characters that stick with people. If you look back at the champions that Valentino Rossi was fighting against, you don't really hear about them that often, which is nothing against their accomplishments. It's just interesting seeing who has the staying power in that way. You look back at even the guys that were racing against Valentino and the same guys that were racing against Mark in that era. Look at the rest of the aliens. For whatever reason, that staying power didn't stick for them. You talk about Mick Doohan. When Mick Doohan shows up, everyone's talking about Mick Doohan and everybody wants to be near Mick Doohan. I just think it's so interesting the ways in which we keep athletes around. Fernando Alonso is a great example because dude is never leaving.
Never leaving. Fernando Alonso famously in an Instagram or in an F1 content released today said that he has gotten along well with all of his teammates, including his current one, Lance.
I love when people lie and I love when people practice revisionist history. There's a reason I like Marc Marquez. But I love when people lie. It's great.
I want you to look me in the eye, Fernando Alonso, and I want to hold up a picture of you and Lewis Hamilton with no hair.
Yeah, Lewis is still on the job. What, like, Lewis literally standing next in line to do his little F1 shoot.
As Fernando is saying, I've gotten along with all of my teammates.
Everyone. Never any
It's
problems.
Literally Lewis and Esteban are just like, their heads are just turning slowly.
I literally was about to say, Esteban is right there.
Like, chatting, and Fernando's just there lying in front of God and everyone.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
He's so funny. The last thing I wanted to touch on in the wide world of motorsport is, speaking of Mick Doohan,
yes,
and his beautiful, beautiful daughter, Jack Doohan.
Yes.
And the evil, evil Franco Colapinto, who will be there in Australia for no reason. Can't this man have one thing?
Flavio?
Is my question. It's his
Flavio Briatore.
first and maybe only home race.
You are never going to see the gates of heaven.
Like, it's his first and maybe only home race ever. He's already going to be driving a fucking Alpine. Like, this is cruel and unusual punishment.
No, it definitely does break Geneva War crime conventions.
Like, what sin has Jack or Mick committed on a cosmic level to earn this kind of retribution?
I mean, if we're Catholic, the original sin.
Anyways, we can't get into all of that.
We really can't get into the whole schism of Christianity. It's fine.
Things we can't get into. The 2015 MotoGP season and Catholic theology. I think that brings us to the grid as ... which, for the uninitiated, is when we categorize some riders, some drivers as a person, place, thing, concept at the end of every podcast. And this week I propose we do riders and drivers as countries beginning with the letter A. Riders and drivers is the countries starting with the letter A. Go.
Okay. I am going to do Marc Marquez and...
You gotta do Frankie.
Frankie, you're so right. Okay. So for Frankie, I think I'm going to go with Australia because he does just have like that laid back, like
Surfer.
Exactly, surfer kind of vibe as discussed. He already has the California-esque
Zoe's having a stroke off camera. She's fully turned off her video now. She is dying.
Wow, that was really bad. I just coughed so hard I cried.
Oh my God. You look
horrible. I sound it. Hold on. Oh my God. Amazing. Okay, I'm back. Jesus Christ. The things I do for art. Shall I start from the top of Frankie? That cough sounds wet now. I don't like it.
Well, yeah, you just choked on water. You just waterboarded yourself.
No, I didn't choke on I didn't choke on anything I drank. It just suddenly, my throat said, oh, we're done. Okay, so also, sorry to whoever is listening. I almost died, but we're back. The grid has countries that start with the letter A. I'm going to go with Frankie as my first rider, and then I'll also be picking Marc Marquez. Frankie is Australia. He has the vibe. He has the California accent for English that all Australians apparently like. I just think he would have fun there. I think it would just be a good fit. For Marc, I will be going with the very tongue-in-cheek choice of Andorra. Don't know if you know this, Zoe, but Andorra is famously one of Europe's many tax havens.
I did not know this.
And so quite a few MotoGP riders have chosen to live there. And back in the day, Marc tried to live there because it's very close to Spain. I don't know the exact legal definition of it as a country or a neighbor or whatever it is. But back in the day, Marc tried to live there and was what can only be called bullied out of doing it. So that's Marc. He's Andorra.
Can I just say, way less countries start with A than I thought.
I completely agree. There is only 11, and I took 2 of the good ones.
I'm going to go with, I think we mentioned these guys. We're going to go with Fernando Alonso, and I'm going to take the easy way out and go with Esteban Ocon. I'm going to start with Esteban Ocon. I think Esteban Ocon is Algeria because he is Algerian.
Got it. We're set.
So easy. So easy.
Simple. Straightforward. Correct.
Secondly, and this is where it gets juicy because there's not a lot of, clean A countries left. I think Fernando Alonso is I'm just gonna say it. I think Fernando Alonso is Armenia because conflict.
So wait,
am I not allowed to say that?
Just don't say anything else.
That could also go for.
That's it. Thanks, guys.
Fernando Alonso is Albania. Not really sure what's going on there.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah, way
I'm
less.
not totally sure what's going on in Fernando Alonso's head anyways.
Or a short view back to the past, because he is old, right?
Yeah, he's ancient.
I think that Fernando Alonso is the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
I see that. The last bastion of a dead empire. Perfect.
Well, that brings us to the end of the podcast. On that wild note, next week we will have a lot to talk about as we recap the Argentinian Grand Prix and the Australian Grand Prix, 2A countries. Lots going on. In the meantime, come hang out with us at Motomouths on TikTok and Instagram.
I'm so sorry.
Just say goodbye.
Come hang out with us. We're a good time.
Bye.
Guys, I've almost died twice recording this. The things I do for art.
Well, this has been Motomouths. Let's keep chatting soon. Bye.